Album covers. In an art form like music that deals completely in audio, cover art is a usually overlooked part of the listening experience, but I would argue that cover art is almost as important as the actual music it's attached to. When creating cover art, you're giving your sound a face, a physical thing for people to look upon and judge if your music is worth their time. And they say don't judge a book by its cover, but these are albums, so that's precisely what I'm going to do. More than anything, cover art should be an extension of your music. Visually, it should match the sounds so that the listener can get a glimpse of what your music is before they've even listened to it, and after they've listened to it, they should say, yeah, that fits the songs, but at the same time it needs to be interesting, so that when people like me doom scroll Spotify looking for new music and find two songs with the same title, the one that doesn't look like shit is most likely the one I'm going to listen to. But it's not always easy to create cover art that encapsulates your sound and translates it to a visual while still being interesting and pleasant to look at. So at the very least, if you can convey what genre your music is, you're doing a good job. Look at these two albums. Just by the covers, I'm sure you can tell which of these is metal and which of these is a SoundCloud rapper. Now look at these two albums. One of these is Childish Gambino, but regardless of genre, a lot of album covers tend to follow the same tropes and ideas. You could have a face, or a big angry face, or a sad face, or a face of a historical figure but they're wearing Gucci, or a face of a woman faking an orgasm, or maybe even a face, but it's slightly obscured. Like seriously, why do so many artists just put their face on an album and call it a day? Like I get the concept, and I suppose if you're famous enough your face is the marketing, but it just seems so bland. Some artists do make it tasteful though, like I can actually derive some kind of artistic expression from these. The only thing I get from this is that Brendan Urie is all alone because all of his band members quit. The more I take a closer look at album covers, the more I realize that I can't stand minimalism. Like what is this? What am I supposed to gather from this? You see these minimalistic designs a lot with really big artists, like they're saying, you know who I am, you recognize this logo. And while I recognize the death bat anywhere, it's not that particularly interesting. Like it just looks like something you would see on somebody's Call of Duty banner, which makes more sense the more I think about it. But now it's an NFT, so if it wasn't ugly before, now it is. Simple designs aren't always bad though. Not every album cover needs to be elaborate and complicated, but the ones that are usually are much more compelling than this. Like look at this, finally some good art. Yes, yes, yes. No, sometimes being massive and intricate is far worse than being too simple. Like look at Slipknot's new album. Name one thing in this picture, I dare you. I guess to be fair, it does kind of fit the music it's representing. It does kind of make you wonder though, what are these artists thinking when they approve these album covers? You could make your art fun and happy with tons of color, or a bit more relaxed and somber with less detailed use of secondary colors. Sometimes the font of the words on the album conveys way more than the art does. Art could jump out at you and demand your attention, or it could subtly invite you in. They could be gross, psychedelic, unnerving, triumphant, or fantastical. All these thousands of different ways to give your music a face, and yet you chose to put a Snapchat filter on your face and call it a day. Tyler the Creator. My good friend, Tyler the Creator. I know him personally, better than anyone. Let's go through his discography and see how he evolves over time with his album covers. After all, this is a man who prides himself on presentation.
Oh, great heavens!
What the fuck is that? Tyler, my man, this is abysmal. Okay, well, let's fast forward to Cherry Bomb. Oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. We have an ugly creature wearing an ugly shirt with a very stylized cherry bomb at the top. Very nice, 8 out of 10. Next album, let's see it. Oh, okay, and we're back to the fucking faces. Well, this one actually looks like it might have had some effort put into it, so I'll let it slide. I'm sure the next one will be the best. Oh, okay, alright, well, we've graduated from faces to passports, really pushing the medium forward. Nice one, Tyler.
Oh my god, can you let me do what I need to?
I've always liked Gorillaz album covers. I think it's because of the fact that all of the band members are cartoons, so when they put their faces on an album, it actually still looks dope. Oni Inc., a true visionary, has consistently used the good old-fashioned YouTuber trick of putting boobs in the thumbnail to get people to click. If I had to pick a favorite album based on just cover art alone, it would definitely have to be More Adventurous by Rilo Kiley. There's just something so relaxing about this image. It looks so simple at first, this green mountain over a dark gray background, but then you look at it a little closer and you see it's actually a forest. But no, actually, it's a town. And the whole thing is a puddle that someone just threw a rock into. Like, the longer you look at it, you notice more and more subtle details. It's incredible how they could pack so much detail and style into a cover and yet not make it overwhelming in the slightest. Not to mention the pure vibes of it all. The colors, the font, the
walkable city.
Everything about it is so tranquil and alluring. Truly one of the best album covers of all time, in my opinion. I'm definitely biased when I say this, but I think metal as a genre just has much higher standards for cover art. It makes sense for a genre that's built on being loud, aggressive, and heavy to have cover art that matches that energy. Sabaton, now these guys, you could make a museum for these guys' album. Almost all their songs are about war and battles that have taken place throughout history, so it makes sense for their cover arts to feature intense scenes of battle and ash and fire and intense shit like that. Killswitch Engage, these guys are the only band I know that consistently make every single album cover a banger. It's emo as hell, but it's still freaking cool. But enough about good album covers, let's get into the bad ones. These are the ones that usually come from artists being weirdly eccentric, or the covers are just poorly photoshopped images of their face, though these are the ones that circle back to being good again because they're funny. A lot of terrible covers come from artists just plain being dramatic as hell. Like, I feel like I could replace this entire portion of the video with Tom MacDonald albums. This guy's the embodiment of self-righteous. And I guess this is just a matter of opinion, but it seems like so many of these new albums coming out from big artists are just plain ugly. And not ugly in a good way like Cherry Bomb, ugly in an NFT kind of way. I think the farther back you go in time, the more interesting album covers tend to be. Of course, the cultural zeitgeist of the 90s was to be as over-the-top and gross as possible. Not to mention that when it was way more common for people to actually walk into a physical store and buy an album off the shelf, bring it home and play it on their stereo, there was way more incentive to make your cover as eye-catching as possible. Like, imagine walking into a store and seeing this on the shelf. Yeah, Donda would have sold 0 copies back in the day. That probably just means the covers are only gonna get worse from here, though. Yet another industry that millennials have killed. So massive props to the artists that still choose to have great cover art. And with that, I'm gonna end this video here.